What happens when Hollywood takes on climate science? You get wolves on a ship in flooded Manhattan, apparently.
And instant freezing. That's totally how weather works.
So grab the popcorn and a choc top and settle in for the day after tomorrow.
Because it's time for Totally Cook's first movie review.
Movie special. Dude.
Oh, fuck.
We don't have choc tops in England.
What?
It's a very Australian cinema snack.
Oh, that's sacrilegious.
I think it was either June or Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or something recently. I was watching that with a friend and the top of my choc top fell off into my mouth.
Yeah.
The whole thing went. So then I had to eat this like I had to hold it as it melted into my hand, like eating it like a raccoon that got it out of the bin.
Like my 6-year-old. So I recently took my kids to the movies, can't remember what we saw, and we all got a choc top. And we all, myself included, came out with like chocolate and ice cream all over our clothes. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it is a very Australian thing, yes. My name's Sarah Perkins-Kirkpatrick, and I'm a professor of climate science at the Australian National University in Canberra.
I'm Iain Strachan, a former journalist turned science communicator. We're members of the Australian Research Council Centre of Excellence for the Weather of the 21st Century.
And this is Totally Cooked, the climate and weather podcast.
Sure is. Do you remember when you first saw this movie?
Yes, I do. I don't remember the exact day, but I was doing my undergrad, and it was actually kind of exciting to see that it was almost like climate change was like, I wouldn't say people were taking it seriously, but there was big interest. Like here's this apparent Hollywood blockbuster talking about something related to climate change. So people clearly had buy-in, also was my impression. And I went to it with my then boyfriend, I think. And I can't remember exactly what I pulled apart in the movie, but I'm like, this is rubbish. There's so many inaccuracies in this, which I'm sure we're going to dive into.
We may touch on them.
Just a little bit. And he did not have any sort of climate or science background whatsoever. And I just came out saying, a lot of that is actually impossible. And he's like, oh, it's not impossible, it's improbable. I'm like, no.
It's literally.
No. It's literally impossible. At least in the timescales and blah, blah, blah. And there's, and rewatching it again, I'm like, oh yeah. Now that's why I have that memory.
What was your undergraduate?
I did just an undergrad in science, but I did a lot of like atmospheric science and also a minor in biology, conservation biology as well.
And what was he studying?
Oh, he didn't study. I think he was a banker or worked for a bank or something. So completely, it didn't last long.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't strike me as the banker type.
No, it didn't last long at all. So what was your opinion then, or what was the opinion of the movie in general?
Well, I remember, I actually think I suspended my critical disbelief and was like, yeah, cool, okay, let's go with it. Like I think I got sucked into the narrative. And I don't recall being like really snobby about the science.
Okay.
But
Fair.
I was studying history and international relations, so I wasn't a nerdy little Bachelor of Science girl being like, oh, that would never happen.
Come on, at least I was trained correctly to pull it apart like that.
So in some respects, your career from that point has been leading to this moment.
Absolutely. The whole 20 plus years since it was originally shown has led up to this moment. I had to actually watch the movie in 2 parts. I was like, I can't take this anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I was just, in part a bit tired. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is, firstly it's dated, right? Like it came out in 2004. So a lot of things have changed in that time. Some cinematography has gotten better, acting has gotten better, special effects has gotten better, and it was just a lot.
Hang on a minute. Now, I don't think you can say acting has gotten better, right?
Well, okay.
Like I would
Maybe
so people have been acting for many, many years. On cinema, in cinema screens, they've been acting for 100 years or something, right? But I would say that the acting in this film is not the best acting you've ever seen, right? It's B movie, like big budget, but B movie quality performances.
Yeah. Yes, agree.
I don't really think anyone comes out of this with particularly flying colours. Is anyone good in it?
No, well, even Jake Gyllenhaal. I think that was the first movie I saw him. I like, all due respect to him, it was rubbish.
Well, I think actually, like, I had my opinion of him coloured by this for a long time, in that I still have never seen Donnie Darko, which I don't know how
I have seen it, but I didn't like it. But anyway, I think that's it's a cult movie. But he's a good actor.
He's a good actor. He's both a heartthrob, but also a serious actor who does interesting independent films and is very well regarded. Yes. Maybe the problem is that he and Emmy Rossum in particular don't have a lot to do here. Like, well, they have lots of lines, but they're not given a lot to work with, you know?
No, that's very true. I didn't even know. So I first saw Emmy Rossum in Shameless, the TV series, the American TV series. It's a takeoff of the British TV series. But anyway, I thought she was great in that. I loved her character. Didn't even know she was in this movie until I rewatched it. Like, she was forgotten in my books. And there was even a couple of other, I don't know if cameos are the right word, but there was someone who was later in Suits.
Oh, yeah.
And he was quickly on, like, the bus that got flooded by the storm surge that came in. But it was like a microsecond.
Were those the obnoxious businessmen that bribed
Correct.
the bus driver to let them on and then quickly got their comeuppance?
Yes, exactly, which is ironic because he is also an arrogant businessman on Suits.
There's a recurring theme in this movie is arrogant people getting swift comeuppance, you know?
Yeah, doing what they want anyway, and then they get a really bad slap in the face.
The most rapid ripening of karma you've ever seen.
Yeah, hard agree. And, you know, but also in a way that's non-factual.
Yeah. So you mentioned about, so that's performances.
Yeah.
Cinematography, maybe we'll focus more specifically on CGI. Like,
okay, fair.
And right from the start, like the tracking shot over the ice shelf it looks like a Windows screensaver.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So, and you know, look, saying all this, like we can put holes in it now, but at the time it was still relatively impressive. Like it was still fake, obviously fake, but a lot better than any other CGI or special effects even that were before it. But it hasn't dated well.
You say that, but I would like to see side by side a comparison between the tidal wave or the tsunami. Is it a tsunami? I don't know. The wave that destroys the eastern seaboard in Deep Impact versus...
Oh, I haven't seen that. Okay.
So do you remember when Armageddon and Deep Impact came out at the same time? And
yes,
they're like both asteroid disaster films.
Yeah.
In Deep Impact, it's actually Elijah Wood, Lord of the Rings digression, but and a big wave destroys Manhattan, I think, and I would like to see the two side by side and see which one looks better.
So when did they come out? When did Deep Impact?
98, I'm going to say.
Okay, all right, yeah. So there may be an improvement, there may not be in that time. I reckon though, if it was refilmed now, and I think I have called in a previous episode that we should do The Day After Tomorrow Take 2. I wonder if they did a similar movie now, how much better the CGI would be.
Yep. It could be The Year After Tomorrow or something.
Yeah, you suggested that. I think that's exactly what you suggested. Or The Decade After Tomorrow. I don't know. Yeah.
But here's the question, right? So do you set it in the same chronology? Like, is this, are we exploring the world after the ice age that was created in that film?
Yes. Yeah. That's a good point. See, there's another. So I'm sorry. I think there's going to be a lot of digressions.
We're
today,
all over the shop already.
Yeah, we are all over the shop. Good luck, Zach, editing this. I'm so sorry. We're just like deal with all our crap. Good luck. I've just finished reading Tim Winton's book Juice, and this is also post climate change in a post climate change world. But it's the opposite. Everything is so damn hot, and it's set in Australia. He's written it really well and kind of drops in and out of where it may be set, how hot it may be. It doesn't really say how far in the future is. But it's an interesting example of an alternative post-climate change apocalyptic world. So maybe that's another movie that could go down the track. I don't know if it could be based on Tim Winton's book or something similar to say, well, you know, here's another path that we could go down. It's probably more likely at this stage, but we'll get to that.
So we're tracking over the ropey CGI ice shelf, and we find three paleoclimatologists extracting an ice core. And
I know it's funny that we've spoken to Neroli.
So you know, here's maybe one of the first scientifically accurate moments in the movie is all the paleoclimatologists are men.
They probably switched off from that moment on. I mean, look, no, to be fair, they go out on the ice and they do dig ice cores. I can't comment as to whether or not the equipment was correct.
No, you're missing my point. What I mean is in 2004, like, I don't think the gender balance in the natural sciences would have been as good as it is now.
No, that's true. So maybe, I would actually say in general throughout the whole movie, not just the opening scene, the lack of anyone else other than a white male was pretty accurate for the time.
There is later, there's a woman who does cyclones at NASA who joins the team.
That's true.
but we'll get to that later. We have to stay. We have to stay chronologically, or stick with the script, and so there they are digging an ice core, and I mean, they really didn't tell us anything about this, but it seems that you can actually cause an enormous ice shelf to break off by drilling an ice core, and I
think there's a reason why she didn't bring that up in our previous episode with her, because I don't think it's likely at all.
Maybe she's just got lucky,
in her, or however many times she's been to the Arctic and Antarctic. Yeah.
So the question I have is, so ice shelves do break off though, right? Or like chunks of ice shelves break off?
Well, it kind of formulates around the Larsen B ice shelf. And I actually had to do a bit of reading about this, because I remember like watching the movie, I was thinking, oh yeah, this is the ice shelf that had a lot of issues. And around that time, it did start to break off. So they are referring to an Antarctic ice sheet that was starting to move and behave in a way that was very concerning. So they do have that part correct, but it's suddenly just like cracking down the center where they just both happen to be camped, so right down the middle of their camp and their drill site. Like the odds of that happening, I couldn't put an exact figure on it, but I think would be, very slim, that it would happen right there, right then, and, in a matter of seconds.
But is it Larsen B?
Yes.
It did break off though, right?
It did, yes.
And so, I guess there has to come a moment where it snaps, and, the kind of, it's no longer adjoined to the bit next to it. How quickly, when that happens, how quickly does it happen? There must be, dramatic cleaving.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't...
Like if you were standing there, you would see stuff go down.
You would, but what's the likelihood of you being there at that particular point in time and it ripping right through the middle of your camp?
Probably low. Yeah.
Very low.
What's the likelihood that you would jump over the gap to get your ice cores?
I think most science. So yeah, like an ice core, as we've discussed previously with Neroli, is incredibly precious and tells us so much about our previous climate. However, in today's OH&S setting, I'm pretty sure most scientists would go, screw the ice cores, we can come back and do this another time. My life is more important.
So I often get included on emails from the School of Earth, Atmosphere and Environment here about training for field work. And I'm like, it's not relevant to me because I'm not a researcher. But maybe that's what's in the training, Yeah. They're like, and if your ice shelf breaks off, do not jump the crevice to retrieve the cores. It's not worth it, guys.
It's not worth it, guys. Yeah, not at all. So I've just quickly looked up the Larsen B ice shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And it did experience a really bad collapse in 2002. So that was 2 years before the movie was made. So it was actually very factual is the wrong word to use here, but it was very relevant to what was happening in Antarctica at the time. And the size that broke off was 1/6 the size of the state of Tasmania, or the island of Tasmania here in Australia. So it was a pretty huge chunk of ice, and it was really concerning because it just happened. I don't know how quickly. I don't know if that crack emerged in seconds or days or weeks. But there was suddenly this huge chunk of ice, and it was indicating that it was, Antarctica was becoming unstable. And what that sort of that ice shelf would have done would have stopped or prevented the rest of the ice off Antarctica going into the sea. So it kind of acts as like a barrier. But that's gone now, or that part's gone now. So it's, more ice is flowing in, and there's more meltwater forming. They're basing it on something that did actually happen.
Yeah, it's and this is narrative, right? This is like let's take something that is real and plausible and condense it into a form that is dramatic and emotive and can be visually depicted and that propels the narrative. Storytelling.
The music though. The drama and the music. It was a bit overkill. Actually no, it was a lot overkill. I don't know. Not giving the audience much credit to actually realise that themselves.
My high bar at the other end of the spectrum for creative license for taking true events and making them entertaining while retaining factual accuracy is always Chernobyl. Chernobyl.
In what way? Like the TV series?
The TV show, yeah.
Okay.
The TV show is a really, really good example of how to depict real events that are very dramatic.
Yes.
And to kind of translate the content into a form that's understandable.
Yeah.
where you don't lose the accuracy of the science. They do such a good job in that show of.
I really enjoyed it. Very dark, obviously, but but they kind of didn't, assume that the audience had little intelligence. Like they let you, they present it in a way that you could digest without overselling it to you. And I kind of feel this movie, especially in its music, it did that. Like it stated everything so dramatically, it didn't give you a chance to think about it yourself.
Yeah, and that's you're right. So Chernobyl gives us all the credit, and The Day After Tomorrow gives us no credit at all. It's like
Correct.
They're going for the lowest common denominator and trying to grab the attention of the dumbest people in the room, not the normal people.
Yeah.
Segue to other dumb people in the room. Our friend Dennis Quaid, Jack, has got his ice cores. He's taken them back and he's run some tests. And 4 months later, he's in New Delhi at a conference.
It's snowing in New Delhi. Yeah,
that's foreshadowing. What?
Yeah.
Something's amiss here.
Something's wrong.
Something's amiss. And there he is talking about, he describes it as the North Atlantic Current. And I wanted to ask you, is that the same thing as AMOC? Is the North Atlantic Current a thing, or are they kind of paraphrasing AMOC? What's the dealio there?
So AMOC, most climate scientists don't like that acronym. It's an acronym anyway that we should probably steer away from.
And we haven't actually said that's the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation.
Yeah, that's it. So I think we did talk about this a bit with Neroli.
I'm sure it's come up,
And so the North Atlantic Current is the surface current that brings warm water from the equator up across the west coast of Europe. And without that current, Europe and the UK would be a lot colder. I can't remember, maybe 10 degrees colder. I'm sure someone can correct me.
Yeah, because if you look at the map, if you look at a globe, Scotland is actually on the same kind of latitude as St. Petersburg and Newfoundland. Right. So
which are really cold. So and being next to the coast anyway, like that kind of plays into part because the ocean is a moderator of temperatures.
Yep.
But you also have that extra warm current, the North Atlantic Current, coming up from the equator. So what this movie is proposing is that overturning circulation, which is meridional, so it goes from north to south and it covers both hemispheres, will shut down. That's effectively the premise of the movie. Now, that could happen, and there is some evidence that may be happening already, and that is because global warming or climate change is causing the ice sheets to melt in the northern hemisphere. That's putting more fresh water into this current, therefore affecting the density balance with the salt water. It's slowing it down and could potentially shut off at some point in time. But a lot of the research papers are saying on a timescale of, I think, bare minimum decades, but much more likely a couple of hundred years. Okay, so a century scale shutdown. This movie is saying it will happen in 3 days.
Well, I mean, there was Jack, and they said, when will this happen? And he's like, don't know. Could be 10 years, could be 100 years. Like, that's what you just said.
Well, that's it. Yeah, exactly. And that's what, and there were papers already out at that time, and there's been a lot done since. And there is indications that it is slowing down. I won't say shutting down, but slowing down because of that change in balance with the fresh water and a term that I learned from Neroli, the briny, salty water.
Yeah, the, what was it?
Brine rejection.
Brine rejection.
That's it. You after a breakup. Cold, salty, and heavy.
Jack's told everyone to be worried, and then he has a fight with the vice president.
Well, so backtrack. We were worried, and we still are worried as climate scientists. He's not the only one. There wasn't just one person who discovered this. There would have been a group of scientists who would have originally proposed this and kind of suggested based on measurements and climate data. But it wasn't.
Is Stefan Ramsdorff a big
Yes,
AMOC
so that's who I had in mind.
Chap?
Yes, yeah. Very well-known climate scientist, excellent climate communicator, very, very prominent and visible to most people, or a lot of people. But yeah, he was one of the leaders in discussing how this overturning circulation in the ocean will change as climate changes. He's been very vocal about that. I'm assuming definitely publicly, but I'm assuming as well to politicians and global leadership audiences. I don't know if he was the first to actually get up and say to a group of global leaders that this is starting to happen. But I find it interesting that suddenly, Jack is in front of the American vice president. a lot of well-known climate scientists will consult with politicians, absolutely, but it is very hard to even get to the ministerial level, let alone, the deputy leader of the country.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't actually remember what kind of conference they were at. What was it meant to be?
It's like a UN conference.
A UN thing?
Yeah. But, so UN, United Nations, we do have the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. There's the United Nations underpins the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and all those meetings and the Conference of Parties that happens yearly to discuss where we are in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So they do have a very big undercurrent, pardon the pun, in global climate discussion and research and leadership. But yeah, it seemed like a very small group of people.
Well, we're going to kind of run the risk of straying into dramaturgy here, but the point is, you're right. So it's very unlikely that there is a conference in which the scientist is talking to an audience which has the vice president or the president in it.
Yeah.
But for this purpose, Jack is representative of science and the vice president is representative of the political establishment.
That's very true.
And so, you need to have direct antagonism between them to propel the narrative.
You're right. Totally. This is how movie scripts and movies are written, like the one-on-one. But I just can't get past that because it was just so inaccurate.
And I love the line where the vice president says that the economy is every bit as fragile as the environment.
But this is the thing, right? Like, we've been banging on about this for decades. We have had a lot of time to not do rapid decarbonisation, to do it over literally decades. Like, here they are in this movie, this pretty poor movie, talking about this 2 decades ago. Yet here we are now talking about rapid decarbonisation. So that's, I guess, where frustration from people like myself comes from.
And so somehow
then
you're now Jack and I'm now the vice president.
Yeah, like, pull your head in, mate. But then Jack also said, and this is true, and again, something that is factual that climate scientists in real life have been saying for a while, the costs of inaction is so much more. Right?
The long-term costs of inaction. And the problem is that short-term political cycles and economic cycles, like quarterly forecasting, revenue budgets, shareholder profit and loss, like that's so short-term.
There's a mismatch of scales.
And our kind of Western liberal political systems disincentivize short-term sacrifices for long-term gain because they're politically inexpedient.
Yeah, hard agree. And this has been the clash, for the last few decades. We're talking about these changes need to happen. It's a slow burn. But, especially in Australia, we have a 3-year political cycle. Other countries, it may be a bit more.
3 years really annoys me because it's an uneven number. Why not 4?
Really? I don't mind 3. Let's go.
No,
I think we should go 5.
5. I mean, 5 is good. Anyway, so Jack leaves the conference after having a row with the vice president and he runs straight into Bilbo Baggins.
It took me, actually, I didn't even realise in the movie that it was Bilbo Baggins. I was thinking, now where have I seen him
Where have you seen him? He's also in Alien, the original Alien film.
I hate scary movies.
Oh, it's so scary, yeah.
Anything horror, anything with suspense. Like, I can take the gore. The gore doesn't bother me whatsoever, but it's that suspense that freaky stuff. Like, suddenly an alien appears out of nowhere. That I will have nightmares about that for weeks. I saw someone took me to see the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I know. And for weeks, months even, I thought there was someone in the corner of my room. And I was in my 20s at this time, just sitting there with the chainsaw in the middle of the night, ready to do that.
I can't watch scary things. No. But arguably nothing is scarier than the climate crisis and the rapid destabilization of the Earth's natural system. So Bilbo invites Jack for tea, which is very British.
It is so very British. Yeah.
And
let's all sort it out over a cup of brew.
Yeah. And then we head back to Bilbo's climate research centre. And I like this a lot because it looks like a shed on a Scottish island with some satellites dishes on it.
It is in North Scotland somewhere, isn't it? Or
I don't know where they filmed that, but it looked like the Shetland Islands or the Orkney Islands, or any, the Outer Hebrides, like.
Yeah.
And I think this is another like wonderful dramatic device where they need it to be somewhere remote and exposed, but that's not where the British National Climate Research Centre is it?
So the Met Office, which is the UK Met Office, which is like the Australian Bureau of Meteorology, and they also do mass amounts of climate research there, is located in Exeter.
Mm-hmm. Very, like, south of England.
Yeah.
And it's a city,
remote.
you know?
Yeah, exactly. It used to be in Reading, but so it is not this tiny island.
Little shed, yeah. And I'm sure there are, you know, weather. It looks more like a weather monitoring station, right?
But they wouldn't, with all due respect, they wouldn't have like a climate researcher there. Like you would have someone like a meteorologist monitoring the equipment and potentially
and like maybe a handyman to fix the dishes, right?
Exactly.
The satellite dishes. But this prestigious professor of climate is not getting the ferry back to Shetland to hang out with the sheep in a shed.
No, you need better resources. Not better, but different resources to do, you know, research, I guess. That's a monitoring site. It's different. So,
you know, so be it. We'll have to just wave that one through to the keeper. But very realistic depiction of football on the television.
You were going to pick that up.
You know, Van Nistelrooy in his prime playing for Man United against Celtic.
Way over my head.
Yep.
I'm not even going to try there.
But you wouldn't have suspected there was anything amiss with that. You know, it's just...
No, not at all.
Just guys watching sport in their shed.
Yeah. Again, very British to be watching football/soccer. Like, wouldn't expect anything else.
Indeed. And at this point, things start to escalate a bit, right?
Just a touch, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Dennis Quaid goes home to Washington and waters his plants, and
they're very dead.
They're
like
having
a
tough
actually.
time. Yeah. So we've got the snow in Delhi. Oh, we've got hail in Tokyo. What do you think of this bit?
That was just absolutely ridiculous. Like these giant, like literally blocks of ice. They weren't even round. They were just boulders, not boulders. Like
they were like 3 times the size of what Tim in our hail episode said was the biggest sort of hail you can get.
Yeah. So hopefully our listeners, if they have listened to Tim Raupack's episode on hail, can now have a better understanding of, you know, the maximum hail size possible. And it is absolutely nothing near what fell out of the sky in Tokyo in this movie.
But another, you know, this isn't so much the arrogance and comeuppance, but the divine intervention or punishment is this: that guy is drinking sake at the bar, and his wife calls him, and she's like, "Where are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm still at the office." And it was his punishment for that white lie is to be electrocuted by falling power lines.
Okay, don't get me wrong. If my husband did that, I'd be a bit pissed if I'm left at home with 3 kids by myself while he has an extra beer at the pub. But I wouldn't wish immediate electrocution death on him.
You wouldn't wish him to die in a hailstorm and its associated impacts? No. Okay. That's good to know.
No. So, you know, it was it wasn't comeuppance. It was, you know, the wrath of, I don't know, some deity that,
The hail gods.
The hail gods.
And then we head over to Los Angeles, where I've written in my notes here, a bargain basement Bruce Willis. It's not Bruce Willis. What I mean is, like, it's you know, the
Kmart version.
The Kmart, Timu Bruce Willis in his like white singlet is having a rather, you know, sort of
He's coughing a few.
sleazy romantic encounter in the LA Met Office, which I hope, you know, is not what happens there for real.
You know what? And this is the thing. Like, this is another part that hasn't dated well. Forget the science for a moment. Is these sorts of, and I'm sure they still have in like the workplace relationships, but it was very much dominated by him, and it gave me the ick and the creeps watching.
Yeah, she's a very sort of passive. Damsel in distress.
Stand up for yourself, woman. Like, you're a person too, and that has those sorts of scenes. I guess they still appear in movies, but they haven't dated well, and they're done a bit differently now. Which is a good thing, but that was a bit cringe to watch that again.
It was a bit weird, wasn't it? And so he has to report a very ropey CGI tornado that he spotted in downtown LA.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the tornadoes in LA. Yeah.
And the tornadoes proliferate, you know, how many? So you know, can you get tornadoes in Los Angeles? I don't know.
This is a great question. Yeah, and this is something that I've had to think about a bit and do a bit more research on. So tornadoes, like LA has some hills. I've actually never been to LA, so I can't comment precisely on the geography there. Tornadoes can form almost anywhere, but they do prefer flat surfaces, just in terms of how they form, in terms of like the wind and underpinning dynamics. But it doesn't mean that they can't go on hills. So that's why you see it go on Hollywood Hills and destroying the Hollywood side. I don't know how realistic that is. often tornadoes, or not often, but almost always, they form at the back of a thunderstorm, a supercell thunderstorm. Don't recall seeing a supercell thunderstorm go through LA first. I'm not sure if you can get multiple per storm, probably, but there seemed to be an excessive amount of tornadoes, just like
yeah,
suddenly.
Like the sort of maybe up to about 10 Category 5 tornadoes.
That's it, and 2 merge together as well, which can happen. They can merge, so that's not completely inaccurate. But how it happened, I can't comment. It did seem a bit too far fetched. So, like, just thinking about it, even in Australia, we can get tornadoes. We don't get them very often, and they're not that severe. But I used to live in the northern suburbs of Sydney, and we had a storm once that caused a couple of minor tornadoes around where we lived. And you could actually, and that was quite a hilly area of Sydney, so they can form on those, like, doesn't have to be a flat plain. So I guess I'm addressing this thinking of the tornado alley in the US, which is very flat, and you have the convergence of cold air from the north and warm air from the south, and that clash is a factor in these tornadoes often developing. They don't have to form under such intense conditions, so you can get relatively weaker ones in other locations, but would happen in a very unstable atmosphere, and also, as I mentioned, on the back of an actual storm.
So here I am putting my dramaturgy hat on again. I guess what they've done here is people already are familiar with tornadoes. It's a very iconic, it's an iconic and infamous short-term, rapid, destructive weather system. And and this is only 8 years after Twister came out, which was a big hit.
Did Twister come out 8 years before this movie?
I think Twister was 96, I reckon. So,
I thought it was the same.
Arguably, CGI. Well, we'll have a think about Twister CGI later. But my point is, people know what a tornado is, particularly in the US, and maybe what they're doing here is the incongruity of seeing a tornado in Los Angeles where you wouldn't expect them to occur.
That's very true.
And the pace and the strength that they're occurring at. That's that's the narrative device here is the weather is out of control. The climate is changed, and it's doing things that we wouldn't expect.
And so suddenly, because everyone's like, oh, we don't know what's going on. We weren't expecting this. Like, it just, like, suddenly happens out of literally thin air. So,
And then, I was sort of chortling a bit with, black humor at the weathermen, like the TV weather people, like, being wiped out by signs and cars and things. But
they got their comeuppance. Sorry.
So
Sorry.
Maybe there's something even deeper to this, which is here I am maybe giving the creators of this film too much credit, but is there something in this about how prior to this crazy, explosive climate event happening, the weather has been something that has been consumed as a product. It's entertainment, like particularly in the US, like weather news, kind of almost a sort of voyeuristic reveling in extreme weather that can be packaged up and put out there as entertainment for the public. And
it still happens today, though, Ian. It still happens. Like, a tropical cyclone happens in Australia. Most people get out of the way, but some people want to go down the beach and watch the storm surge and waves. Like, and we have weather presenters on our TVs telling us what's going to happen over the next few days. I don't think it's as bad anymore, but certainly during the 90s, it was entertainment. It was fun, and they would have a special, and they'd do funny things, and they had like the weatherman or the weatherwoman, usually the weatherman, personality. It was more entertaining and for entertainment purposes. So that is I guess a time capsule to what weather was perceived like.
Well, also, but is there a knowing kind of they're referring to that, but in this instance, they can't report on it safely. They're getting close. They want to show it as entertainment, as news, but it's so powerful that they've gotten too close. Like, playing with fire or when you're, when animals fight back, that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and perhaps they didn't expect it to be so extreme because I haven't had that sort of weather and never expected that sort of weather in that location. But for goodness sake, get out the path of a tornado, for the love of God. Like, you don't need to have a meteorological degree to know that, right? Especially in the US. Like, I'm not wishing death on anyone. I'll just make that clear.
Thanks, Sarah. However, it's good to know.
Especially no one in this podcast. However, unfortunately, if you stand in the path of a tornado, you will likely die.
Mm. Especially a super tornado in a climate disaster.
In LA.
Film.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we all saw it was coming. Yeah.
So while this is happening, we got a bit of narrative development over on the other side of the US, where Jack is very cross that his son has failed calculus.
Yes.
What do you think about this bit as a parent of budding young science students? Or wizards?
Wizards. If she fails her, like, what is it in Harry Potter? Her owls, then we're in deep trouble. I think it was a bit hard on his son to begin with.
I think he's a big baby, you know?
Yeah. Like,
he's a big man-child.
Calculus. Yeah, totally. But then suddenly, it's not his son's fault, right? It's the lecturer's fault because his son's
so smart. Like,
so
and then he's really proud of him for being so smart, like he is.
I know. Cringe! Give me a bucket.
He seems like he's a bit of a man-child who obviously, I don't know why they divorced, but I'm presuming it's because he's...
Really?
I think he's, he's obviously married to his career and is obsessed with his work and is not around. And I feel like his poor ex-wife is actually the one raising Jake Gyllenhaal, but
she's also very, ambitious. Like she's a great doctor. Like she's got a good solid career herself.
But he's the one who's like jaunting around the Arctic and the Antarctic, coming home to water his plants, and then like having a sook about calculus when he's not been around.
Suddenly he decides to be a parent when his son's failing or apparently failing. And look, to be honest, if my child did something that I wasn't expecting, at first I'd be like, what's going on? Why did that happen? However, you don't go in guns blazing saying you failed this. What's wrong with you? Like that is, though, how parenting was done 20, 30, 40 years ago, but not how we approach it these days.
By the way, did you study? I've never studied calculus. I don't know what that is.
I did it. Gosh, I should have done more maths at university and even high school. I was actually quite good at it. I just never saw the point. And calculus was one of those things.
Is it? It's not. So algebra is like. It's not like algebra, is it?
I can't even describe it.
She's Googling calculus.
I know.
Anyone who's not watching the video, she's Googling calculus. I'm waiting to see what happens.
The branch of mathematics, this is from AI, I'll just put that there. The branch of mathematics that deals with the finding and properties of derivatives and integrals of functions by methods originally based on the summation and, I can't read this word, and summation of infinite differences. That's effectively what it's saying.
Wow.
The two main types are differential calculus and integral calculus. So that does make sense to me.
Okay.
But I don't know how to unpack it.
I'll take your word for it. We'll just move on.
So you do in high school you do some calculus, and that can be expanded on much, in much more depth at university. I did do a bit at university, but it was very much like this is what calculus is, and this is how you do these differential and partial differential equations. But for someone like me who has ADHD, I'm like, what's the point? Why do I need this? And maybe Jack is one of those people. Although, or not Jack, Jack's son.
Jack and Jake.
Jake. Oh dear.
Well, hang on. No, what's Jake's character called? Sam.
Oh, that's
it's called
right.
Sam.
Sam. Yep. Sam.
It's Jack and Sam, Dennis and Jake. Dennis and Jake.
Jake.
So after having a bit of a sook about calculus, Dennis drops Jake at the airport.
Yep, and says good luck.
Are we going to use the character names or the actors' names?
I don't know.
Let's use the characters' names. So start again.
Yep.
After having a sook about calculus, Jack takes Sam to the airport, and he hops on his flight to his what is it? Decathlon they call it, like a.
For really smart nerdy people, I think it's just testing their intelligence. Basically.
Nerd quiz.
Nerd Central, and making them feel bad about themselves if they get stuff wrong.
Yeah, and what did you think of this scene on the plane with the turbulence?
Yeah. Look, actually, I shouldn't have that initial reaction. That's a bit wrong. There has been cases recently where there's been sudden and severe turbulence on planes, where it's just literally come out of nowhere. People have gone flying. People have died.
Was it a Singapore Airlines flight last year?
There's been a couple, but someone did die, and I can't remember on what aircraft carrier.
What airline?
Aircraft. Yeah, thank you. Airline carrier, aircraft.
An aircraft carrier is a very different thing.
It is. You're right. I should know this. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. So having sudden turbulence can happen, right? That is feasible, but the way they depicted it,
You weren't into it? I was tense for them. I was pretty worried at this point. I was like, oh my God, this is scary.
You know what? I don't actually mind a little bit of turbulence. Like, especially if it's a long haul flight and I'm asleep, it kind of rocks me to sleep a little bit. But I usually have my seatbelt on and I don't go flying through the cabin.
Okay. And they get to New York and the sky is black with CGI birds.
It is too. Something. What did the birds like? The birds are leaving obviously because everything's changing so rapidly. What was the was there a specific cause at that time?
Or it's just a continual build up of the alarming, visual cues, and
they could sense something was wrong in the
and the bears and the wolves at the zoo are howling and unhappy.
Yeah, they can sense the change. They know it's not right. They can sense what we can't see.
And so now we get to a point I really enjoyed. And you've actually already delivered this lecture. So Jack is at NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration,
which do exist.
Real place.
Yeah.
And
maybe for not much longer.
Jack is the kind of grumpy scientist, and his boss is wearing a suit. And his boss, I don't know who the actor is, but he looks like The Rock's baby brother.
He's familiar. I've seen him in other stuff. I just don't know his name.
Yeah, he's like a small version of The Rock. He's not as strong. He's not as tall, but he looks like him. Yeah. And somehow he's in charge of NOAA. And they have this, big discussion it looks like, mission control at NASA, doesn't it? Like, I don't know what that room is meant to be.
No, but it's very NASA-esque.
They're all gathered around, lots of computer screens and I'm
just waiting for them to say, Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah. And when the woman from NASA, who's the cyclones expert, she's like, someone says, the only thing that can influence the world's weather this much is the sun. And she's like, solar output is normal. Yeah.
So there's a solar cycle, 11-year solar cycle. So I'm assuming, can't verify this for certain, but I'm assuming that's what she's referring to.
Yeah.
That hasn't
no
changed.
big sun flares, nothing like that.
No, the sun hasn't suddenly just gone kaput.
And Jack says, well, it's critical imbalance of desalinization, like too much water, too much fresh water, not enough salty water.
Yeah, the brine is debrining.
And when he says this, this is a great example of exposition. He says that, and The Rock's baby brother is like, we all know that in here. And I'm sitting there watching it with my colleague Lucia, and we're like, yeah, but we don't. Like, this is he has to deliver that exposition.
Yeah.
They all know why he's saying that.
Yeah.
And they have to pretend, we all know that already, but it's for the audience.
Exactly. Oh, totally.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, you can't assume that your lay audience with some lowest common denominators scattered through there would know exactly what that meant. And we had narrowly on this podcast to specifically break that down for us. And that's fair. That line there is fair.
It's good. It's good. Maybe I think it's good writing for this
True.
For this purpose, for this, this audience. And so we start talking about, someone says, there are no forecast models remotely capable of plotting this scenario except yours.
So where do we start with this? Like, a forecast model is a weather model. So we forecast weather, we project climate. Mm-hmm. Same principles. I'm sure we're going to have an episode on this at some point, so I won't go into too much detail. Same dynamical physical principles. The scale is different. Spatial and time scales are different. In terms of this circulation shutting down, generally speaking, it should be climate terms. So we should be looking at projections from physical climate models. But here suddenly they're referring to weather models, I'm assuming, because they're talking about forecasts. And I think they're right, like, because this is happening so quickly, there is no model that can include this change so quickly.
Well, they've amalgamated the two things, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly.
And we talk about how climate is the average of weather. Climate is over longer timescales. Weather is over shorter timescales. Yes. And in this hypothetical, fictional world, the timescales in which the climate is changing are at weather scales, hours and days.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And we're done for the day. Yeah, you're right. They've kind of smashed and mushed that in. And for someone like myself, whose career is based on looking at physical climate models, it was just so bad. But again, I'm coming from that science perspective, not a more general layperson perspective. And that, I understand why they glossed all over that. They didn't need to go into that sort of level of detail, but it was very badly done in my opinion.
Where it's interesting because I I was much kinder in my watching of this than I ever have been before. And I think it's because, this is kind of a little bit of what Zach and I do in our communications role is we take your work and we try to describe it in terms that are simple, direct, and short enough to give people the gist of it.
Yeah. Yes,
that's
exactly.
Science. I mean, some 100%. people out there may strongly disagree with me and may not employ me in future, but I feel like science communication is giving people the gist of it.
100%. Yeah, and that's just as much as I can. And being a scientist, sometimes I don't quite do this, but this is what I'm trying to remember when I'm communicating science. It's the gist of it, these specific accuracies, whatever. That's lost on a general audience. So I do get why they did this in this film. And I get why you've been kinder because you're looking through it with a different lens than I am.
And even Jack pushes back and he's like, "Look, my model is a reconstruction of a prehistoric climate shift. It's like I don't know if it's going to apply to what's happening right now, but it's and then there's but it's the only thing we've got.
Yeah. Well, there are what we call paleoclimate models, and they do look back into the past and not just the last 100 years. We're talking about thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of years, and they try and tell us or give us an indication of what happened when. How did the climate change? How fast did it change? Why did it change? And ultimately, those sorts of models are based on what we can get from paleo reconstructions. So reconstructions of past climate from things like ice cores and that sort of paleo indications. They do exist. So the fact that they brought this sort of entity up, is factual in its, I guess, existence, but how they're employing it to describe what's going to happen in the next few days.
I wanted to raise a point that I think may resonate with you in particular. So Jack and the Rock's baby brother kind of
sorry, that cracks me up.
Grab the vice president in a corridor and they're like, we've got some urgent research you need to see.
Because the vice president's just going to be hanging around,
just hanging out in the corridor, and they grab him. And they're like, look, we've got this data that shows that that everything's changing really worryingly and scarily right now. And the vice president says, you told us that wouldn't happen for 100 or 200 years. And Jack's like, oh, I was wrong. And he's like, well, if you were wrong then, how do we not know you're wrong now? Yeah. And I thought of you and other researchers where when you're if you're a climate denier or a climate skeptic or a contrarian, then the admission of, if you say about your research, oh, there are some uncertainties remain, or we're not entirely sure yet, then people will willfully misinterpret that and will say, oh, if you're not sure, then why should we listen to anything?
Yeah, exactly. It did ring of that. And this was around the time that the climate wars were starting, I think. I'm not too sure of my dates, but that's my recollection.
So maybe even a bit before, actually. This is more, I'm thinking of, this is 2 years before An Inconvenient Truth came out, the Al Gore movie.
Yes, I saw that.
So it's almost a little bit before things kick off in Australia. Labour won the election here in 2007.
That's right.
And then the emissions trading scheme was legislation was attempting to be passed under the Gillard government in 2009.
Yeah. So we were actually taking things a bit seriously here at that.
Maybe, yeah. But I really liked that bit, where the vice president says, why should I listen to you? Because you were wrong.
And that hit hard, right? Because and this was well before I'm going to do this in inverted. I can't do this without doing inverted commas. The climate hiatus. It was before that, but it had undertones of that big time. Like, oh, you've been wrong before, or you said climate, global warming was happening, but suddenly it's stopped for a little bit. You're wrong. It was very similar to all that sort of shade and flack that can be thrown at us when I don't know, things can be a bit surprising, and that does happen at times in climate and weather science. So but it's you're right. It's far easier to say, oh, well, you were wrong once, so you're going to be wrong again. Let's just sweep it under the rug. It's much easier to do that than to face the truth. The inconvenient truth, it seems.
The inconvenient truth. And the vice president really shouldn't have ignored him, though, because things start escalating very quickly from this point.
You're right. He should have believed Jack Dennis, whatever his name is.
Jack Dennis.
But what was going to happen? They can't change the Armageddon that's literally about to fall on the Northern Hemisphere. But what could they do? Are they talking about getting more people out?
Well, I mean,
what are they going to change?
the consequence of that decision depicted in the film is that if at that moment they had evacuated the northern United States to the southern United States or beyond, then maybe more lives would have been saved. But this is a point that I really got stuck on, which is like, I think it's actually a couple of scenes later. The president says, okay, we'll get the National Guard to evacuate the southern states. And it's like, what do you mean? Like, you can't just I'm sure there is no plan for evacuating half of the United States to the Mexican border. Like, it just doesn't work that way, you know?
No, like hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah,
let's just go. Let's do it.
It would be utter chaos. Like, society
and in
would collapse.
Space of less than a day. Like, it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible.
That, I think, perhaps is the, you know, we're already
the biggest flaw.
That's perhaps the most unrealistic part of the film. Is not the dramatic, you know, weather crisis occurring, but what the response to it would be is people would be eating each other in the ruins of civilization within days.
They would, they would be. But also, like, and I'm sure we'll get to this. It's coming very soon. But the 3 apparent mega cold cyclones hovering above the northern hemisphere.
Things really kick off now, and our access to this is the RAF are trying to evacuate the royal family from Balmoral because, of course, everyone else in Scotland deserves to die, but the royal family need to be evacuated.
Of course, Lizzie needed to be saved.
And the helicopters freeze in flight.
But yeah, mid-flight, like that, they freeze. Like, the ice just happens. It was so. I don't actually know if it can freeze so suddenly, but it does not look at all accurate. Like, anyway. So I've just Googled the coldest temperature ever recorded. Mm-hmm. It was minus 89.2 degrees Celsius, and it was measured at the Vostok station in Antarctica on the 21st of July, 1983.
Yeah, it's pretty cold.
It's pretty cold. So a lot colder than what I originally said.
It's not far away from the cold that froze the jet fuel.
True, but I don't think it would have happened in a matter of seconds.
No, probably not.
Certain weather systems that led up to that, it was smack bang in the middle of winter, etc. Like, there was reasons for it, not just a cold cyclone, which I'm sure we're going to get to in a moment.
And over in New York City, the Statue of Liberty is getting progressively wetter as the sort of storm surge approaches the city.
Yeah. Sorry,
What are you doing? You got distracted.
I did get distracted.
What did you get distracted by?
So I have just found that the lowest temperature the satellites detected was minus 93.2 degrees Celsius on August 10, 2010. Obviously, we can't have stations everywhere, weather stations everywhere. So it seems that temperatures have been a bit colder over Antarctica compared to what our actual instruments on the ground have measured. But still, like, it's not frozen in seconds. It's not reached that minus 100 degrees.
No helicopters frozen in the making of this podcast.
Immediately, no.
So New York City is getting wet.
Very.
Very wet.
It's funny, there's actually had a few hurricanes, which are tropical cyclones effectively, batter it in the last couple of decades. So having storm surges there is not unprecedented or unforeseen.
Did the storm surges surge down the concrete jungle of Manhattan and flood everything?
Not so dramatically, and not like a tsunami.
Is this a tsunami? It's not, is it?
It's not. No, a tsunami is caused by the ocean water being displaced by an earthquake, underwater earthquake, volcano, that sort of thing. So a seismic event, and it pushes the water up, and it is literally a wall of water. It's not a wave; it's a wall of water, and then towards the coast. And how big the tsunami is depends on where the earthquake occurred and how deep it was, and a couple other factors. So you can get tsunamis that like a couple of centimeters versus, tens of meters.
Whereas this is a storm surge.
Correct. So it's when I'm pretty sure Liz went into this when we talked about tropical cyclone, but when we get a tropical cyclone or hurricane, as the cyclone comes in, it pushes the water on the flank of the cyclone towards the coast because a low pressure system pulls it up and it heads towards the coast. So storm surges do cause a lot of damage when we have these sorts of systems hit. It's one of the bigger damages, that and the wind. So that in itself is factual, the actual existence of a storm surge, but how it moved and how intense it was
how would it possibly be that big?
Yeah, good question. It would have to be an incredibly low pressure system. Like, I don't even know if we can get pressure at, low enough to cause a storm surge like that. King tide, super high tide, bit of sea level. No, not a bit. A lot of sea level rise on top of that. It wouldn't move so dramatically, and it wouldn't just I don't know. There's another movie, but I can't think of the name, where you have the water. Actually, it wasn't this movie, but it reminds me of the second Frozen movie, which I'm sure you haven't seen.
I have.
Oh, you have? All right, I'm impressed. And then when Elsa is kind of blocking the water as it comes down the fjord, and that sort of gush of water in that speed and ferocity reminded me of the storm surge moving through Manhattan in the tomorrow.
Our heroes are running to the public library, and
yes.
I mean the wave is right behind them.
You can't outrun a wave like that. So.
Not that fast, no. And they do they get in there, and then they get in and they shut the doors on it, and that's fine.
That's fine. It's gone now. Gone. We don't need to worry about this.
I mean, the strength of that wave, it would burst through the windows 100%. And drown everyone inside.
As you see later, the library is actually a lot lower than a lot of the high-rises around it. They'd be better off going into a high-rise building and staying there, not going to the library. But they would have no books to burn to keep warm.
They would have no books to burn. And was dear Emmy Rossum right to go back for the tourist's passport and handbag?
No. Well, obviously she didn't see the disaster, the impending disaster that was about to happen. But also, why would you? I do feel for those people, right? But they were safe. You can apply for another passport. Can't apply for another life.
No, you can't.
But that's the thing. I don't think that was necessary. Or at the very least, if she was going to go back to the taxi, make it for a better cause.
A better reason,
A baby left behind.
A baby,
like that.
Yep. A cat in a carrier.
No, a baby. Let the cat drown. Ada's going to hate that. I'm not a cat person.
Freezing air column. So...
You mean as the cold moves through and freezes everything? Is that what you mean?
So the fact check I have here is the storm's rotation is pulling super cooled air all the way down from the upper troposphere. That's what we're told.
That's what we're told. I don't know enough about dynamics of meteorology to actually say if that's could happen. But the core of a cyclone, because all of these systems look like cyclones or hurricanes or typhoons, whatever you want to call them. They look exactly like that. But apparently they're not happening in the tropics. They're coming from the upper northern hemisphere and moving down south. So I get in that way it's moving the cold air down south. But to have them look exactly like a hurricane but not have the same warm properties that a hurricane would have, I really struggle with that as a scientist. The inner part of the cyclone is actually quite warm, or a hurricane is actually quite warm, whereas here is literally a freezer of death. Surely that is not possible. Especially in a high pressure system, which we've discussed in previous episodes. It's warmer at the surface than it is up the top. So to have this rush column of cold air come down, in my mind, surely it defies all thermodynamics. But I'm not dynamically trained enough to comment on the specifics.
But it ain't gonna happen.
It ain't gonna happen.
It ain't gonna happen.
No.
But it does happen to these poor chaps, and we're told when the storm is over, we'll be in a new ice age.
Oh my god! So I don't know if we've touched on this, but there was a bit around this time in the movie, maybe a little bit before, where they're at a museum in New York, whatever that famous museum is. I forget what it's called.
The Museum of Natural History or something, isn't it?
Yeah, great
There's
museum.
A mammoth in it. Is the mammoth?
Yeah. Yes, the mammoth. And they're like, it still had food in its digestive system and was in its mouth. So, whatever happened to it happened quickly was the what was implied. So that's kind of like setting us up to think, oh, shit, there's going to be some really quick change happening and it's going to take us completely by surprise. Fine. I get why they have that there. Again, not giving the audience much, intelligent credit. But that mammoth could have died in other ways. Like maybe some snow fell on it. And then it froze for the next 100 or 200,000 years. Maybe it fell into one of these big crevices and froze that way. Like it didn't have to be this sudden weather climate catastrophe that would have killed this mammoth before. So that for me was a huge hole. Like they've tried to say, oh, this has happened before with this example, but there are so many other ways that mammoth could have been perfectly preserved for that amount of time.
This is a very specific thing for you to fixate on as the problem with the movie, you know?
ADHD.
We're getting to the, I think we've kind of given the script and the acting a bit of a kicking here. Ian Holm, Bilbo Baggins, is the best actor in it. And
hard agree.
I think he either has the best line or he delivers it the best, which is they're on the phone and they realise that, they're all in a bit of trouble. And Jack says to him, it's time for you to get out of there.
Oh,
and he says, I'm afraid that time has come and gone, my friend.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're all stuck. They're trapped in their climate shed.
Actually, something else that I wanted to pick up on that I semi-fixated on was how quickly temperatures dropped in the ocean. So a bit earlier on in the film, somewhere in the, I was going to say Arctic.
It's Atlantic. In the North Atlantic.
North Atlantic, yes. Suddenly plummeted to dropped by 13 degrees, suddenly. Okay, and they're like, oh, that can't be. That buoy or buoy or whatever you want to call it is malfunctioning. And then a couple of days later, or even a day later, given the timeline of this film, a couple of more do the same thing, a bit further south. That is impossible. I am so sorry, but that is absolutely impossible for temperatures to drop so suddenly in the ocean. Like, water has an enormous heat capacity, 4 times greater than land, so it takes so much more energy to change the temperature of it. So much more. And on top of that, the ocean is really bloody deep, especially in the Atlantic. Like, we're talking kilometres deep. So for the ocean to respond so quickly to a temperature decrease, or even increase, but decrease in this case, it takes a hell of a lot of time. Like, we're talking years, decades, hundreds of years, not a day or two.
Well, here I am. I have no idea, right? But during the last ice age, would the ocean have experienced a temperature drop of 13 degrees Celsius?
I don't know.
At all,
Yeah. We need a paleoclimate scientist to comment on that. I don't know. Like, it would have dropped, I guess. But nowhere, definitely not that quickly, and I don't know by how much. I don't think it would have been that much.
Here's a question where I think I'm going to suddenly start looking stupid, and the makers of the film may look better in comparison. But thanks. How did ice ages occur?
Well, okay, so ice ages don't happen quickly. Like, they happen on tide scales of millennia, tens of millennia. They have often happened due to changes in something that we call Milankovitch cycles, which is how the Earth orbits change and how the tilt changes.
So we go around the sun, and also the Earth is not, slightly off.
So we're off by 23.5 degrees on our axis. We can wobble, that can change. I can't remember what the range is. I think it's 21 to 24 degrees, and currently we're at 23.5. But someone may correct me on that. I haven't learnt this since my undergrad. And those sorts of changes, so in the how much of an ellipse our orbit is. Oh, I just knocked my microphone. How much of an ellipse our orbit is versus how much we're pointing towards the sun. Well, they operate on different time scales of anywhere between, I think, 10 to 20 or 30,000 years. And because of those shifts, which are slow, particularly in terms of the timescale of this movie, that can control the ice ages.
So it would be interesting to know what the ocean temperature was in the North Atlantic prior to the last ice age occurring.
Yeah.
What it was at the coldest point of the last ice age, and then what it was afterwards. And I would be interested to hear if it was because I think they said the temperature had dropped by 13 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
I would be interested to know if the ocean is 13 degrees colder during an ice age or not. It may 10,000 years or 100,000 years of difference between a hot period and a cold period may not produce that level of change in the ocean.
No, exactly. And what you would see going into an ice age is it would be a positive feedback loop, but going in the other way. So you have more ice, it's whiter, it's reflecting more radiation back out to space, therefore the temperature drops even more. But the timescales of that are at least 10,000, 5 to 10,000 years, a long time, not 24 hours.
Okay, that's pretty ruthlessly debunked.
So these Milankovitch cycles are roughly between 40 to 100,000 years. But tens of thousands of years, not 10 or 1.
We could kind of do with one soon, though, right? That would help a lot.
I guess it would.
It'd be really handy. Back to the serious stuff. There is, of course, nothing like an ice age to get a divorced couple back on good terms. Because suddenly,
I don't know if I'd feel the same way, to be honest, if I was divorced. I'd be like, good.
If your children were trapped in the New York Public Library and calling you from a phone box underwater, then suddenly you'd be cooperating.
That is true. A common interest. Yes, that's fair.
And what did you make of this bit where Sam decides he's gonna make the call from the public phone box?
Wouldn't a wet phone that's submerged electrocute you? This is what I got stuck on again.
Okay.
ADHD. Like this. Sorry, this is phones from 20 years ago, not a mobile phone, but one at an actual phone box. He's kind of talking at it in it as it's submerging. Would that electrocute you?
There's still power. It's got to have electricity to run the phone, right? So
exactly.
Does it? Like, I don't know how a phone works.
I genuinely don't know. But that's what I got stuck on.
Didn't they say something about, like the wiring would be copper?
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I would.
We don't know anything. We don't know how a telephone works. We don't know when ice ages start. Just stop the podcast. I'm going to resign.
I'm just going to go home and go to bed.
Yeah, maybe he might have got electrocuted. He might have drowned. He might have died of hypothermia, but Emmy Rossum was listening in health class, and
so I get so there was no such thing as mobile phones. Oh, sorry.
There was. There
was, but not. Actually, I did too. Sorry. Let me correct that. Mobile phones weren't as prevalent or as advanced as they are now, right? So we didn't just randomly carry one around. And look, to be fair, if you're having this sudden ice age coming upon you, maybe the mobile phone towers wouldn't have worked anyway.
Well, people were saying they didn't have a signal, or I got through to my cousin in Delaware,
I missed that bit, that's true. But I still don't think it was the wisest choice to be on an old school phone as you're drowning.
And that's fair. Yep.
Yeah. And then he suddenly just miraculously appears.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Emmy Rossum says, if we let the blood from your arms and legs rush back to your heart too quickly, your heart could fail.
Is that true? I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know. I mean, and I was thinking that was just an excuse to get close to him. But
just get him undressed.
Maybe, yeah.
Or just a casual flex that, she's really smart.
Well, she said, I listened in health class and you didn't.
Oh, okay.
But I still don't know if it's true or not.
No, I don't know if it's true. Probably is, maybe, to a certain extent.
But, we can't fact check everything.
No, we cannot. It appears that I can't fact check even stuff in my own discipline.
The implausibility continues. If the streets of New York City are entirely flooded, could you fit a ship down them?
So I forgot about this bit until I watched it again. It's I don't think you could, because they're pretty narrow streets, right? You've got this massive.
I mean, you could fit some ships.
You could fit a dinghy or a expensive yacht, I guess, if you're a multi-billionaire. But a cargo ship.
It's a pretty sizable freighter, isn't it?
It is.
It's not a huge container ship, but it's a decent ship.
It is. Surely be pushing against the buildings, and the buildings would buckle. And surely. Yeah.
Next time we're in the CBD of a major city.
New York, yep.
New York, Melbourne, Sydney, London.
So Zach has just said he did a search and it does not fit.
I'm glad someone is checking.
Yeah. I was just told to watch the movie.
Zach check.
Zach check. Oh, we should coin that.
I just have.
I was going to say, okay. But do they also have these freight boats, ships off the coast?
Freight boats.
We're losing it. This is getting really loose. Do they have these ships, these cargo ships, off the coast of New York? And if so, how far? Are they going down the Hudson River, or are they? I mean, would it even have been there in the first place?
New York obviously was once a very thriving port city. It?
Was it in the 18 and 1900s, or are we talking?
Still has.
I genuinely don't know.
I reckon it's fine. I reckon it's fine.
Fine. Okay, it's all fine.
So, and this actually, while that's happening, this is the bit where at the White House, the president finally listens to Jack and evacuates the southern states with the National Guard, just like that.
Yep, just
done.
Just boop. It's like
off you go.
Elphaba and Glenda from Wicked, and boop, it's done.
And meanwhile, back at the public library, it's stopped raining, it started like the snow has settled and people decide they're going to walk.
Idiots.
And Jack tries to stop them, you know?
Well, of course he does, because his father is this expert climate scientist that knows more than everyone else on the face of the earth. Well, actually, quite literally at this point in time, but and he is right. You wouldn't go for a casual stroll when it's like minus 50 to 100 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, I mean, even if he was wrong and it isn't going to get colder, you still, where are they going to go?
Yeah, where are they? I guess they're naive, right? Like, you don't know. The situation you're currently in is bad. Surely, it can't be as bad everywhere else.
But you would stay where you had shelter. And I mean, so my very cynical point was he shouldn't have tried to convince them to stay, because by getting rid of them, they have more of their like dwindling supplies to themselves.
That's a good point. Or, this is going down a dark path, more food if they had to resort to cannibalism if they stayed.
Now, I hadn't even gone there. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't go. I will admit, I didn't go to that point during the movie, but you know, you were saying that you might have encouraged them to go, to not use the resources. Well, maybe they are the resources.
Better to let them leave, freeze out there, then go back for their frozen bodies and cook them on the fire that you've made with burning the books.
True. That's true.
Because it's a freezer out there.
It's a freezer, yeah. But it will, yeah, wow.
Wow. This is taking a really dark turn.
It really has. I don't normally think like this.
Do you, so, I mean, just for the record, you do not endorse cannibalism?
I don't. Like, I guess at some point there may be a reason for it. Like, if it is literally the end of the world, or you've survived a plane crash and you're stuck on a tropical island, like, I guess people would do that, and I may be that certain person, but I don't see it ever being necessary.
So you conditionally endorse cannibalism?
Very, very extreme circumstances.
Okay.
I walked right into that one, didn't I?
Wow. So Mexico has closed its border and they won't let the Americans in.
That's right. I missed this, actually. I missed this bit. But
What do you mean? What were you doing?
I getting myself a glass of water, going to the bathroom.
Tuned out. And they're not allowed in until all of Latin American debt is forgiven.
Just like that.
It's great. It's a great deal. I mean, I would have imagined that the global economy would have collapsed at this point.
Yeah, yes. Well, I don't know. How quickly can it collapse? Like, this is happening in such a short time frame.
As fast as this. Like,
yeah, okay. I guess it has actually, like the global financial crisis and COVID. And
exactly.
What's going on
yeah.
at the moment.
Yeah, the stock market would be non-existent.
Yeah, well,
Be a run on the banks. International trade would have just ceased to function.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's silly. And then we have the wait for Peter's ambulance.
Peter's ambulance.
You completely tuned out this bit.
I did. Sorry, I was reading my own comment on the script. Peter's ambulance. Who's Peter?
There's like this little kid in the hospital.
The kid in the hospital. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and he can't leave without an ambulance, and all the ambulances have left. And
so, genuinely speaking, like, this is a bit heartbreaking because this poor kid obviously has cancer
or something.
Well, he's got no hair. I think it's
something bad.
Yeah, something very bad. He's very unwell. But I don't get the point of these scenes. Like, there's no ambulance, it doesn't show up, and then suddenly it does show up. Like, what is that telling us?
I think that's meant to like humanize the kind of the emotional turmoil and impact of the evacuation. So like, the mum, Sam's mum, Jack's ex, is like, she's our human representative of the people who are being evacuated. Yeah.
That's actually, yes, you're right. Sorry, I didn't. That is very obvious, but I didn't pick up on that. You are right. So it's that human element of, yes, we still care for one another.
Yeah, and she stays even though she expects to die.
Yes,
because she doesn't think anyone's coming for her.
No,
and in some movies they might have like gone a bit harder at that and not come for her, but in this one, suddenly a fireman magically turns up and it's like, oh yeah, we forgot you.
And it's an American blockbuster made in 2004. Of course, someone is going to come and save her. And of course, it is going to be a fireman. We've discussed this in a previous episode, how, you have newfound respects for, emergency services. And this fit that stereotype so well.
And someone's coming for her and him because, they're white and they're straight and they're, privileged.
Absolutely. Yep. 100%.
But my favorite characters in this film are the man and the border collie. The guy who's been living on the streets and he's being turned away by everyone. He, like the building manager won't let him stand outside the building where the rich kid lives, and they won't let him in the library with his dog. But he gets in, and of course he's got a border collie, which is a great dog. So these guys are my favorite. And
and he knows how to survive. Like
he knows how to survive because he's already been living in desperate situation.
Exactly.
And
he's
for him,
got a
it's
better chance of survival.
just another day.
Yeah. Stuff your clothes with newspaper; it'll keep you warmer.
He's in many respects the real hero of the story.
100%. Yeah. The underdog with an actual dog.
The underdog and the actual dog, and the actual dog gets a bit of his hot dog that he stole, which is great.
Yes, border collies tend to do that. Yeah.
Oh, I love border collies. Border collie's probably the smartest character in it, actually.
That's true. That is true.
A bit further south, Jack and Frank and some other dude have decided to walk to New York from Washington. Just normal thing to do. I mean, they've driven a bit of the way.
How far is that? I didn't actually research.
Well, they've not walked all the way. They drove. I think they drove about as far as Philadelphia, didn't they?
But even then, isn't that hundreds of kilometers?
It's 96 miles.
Yeah.
It'll take a day. Yeah. So I don't know. That's actually not that far. They could do it
in a day on snowshoes when it's
it's a couple of days, I think. And they're the idea there is that he's used to walking across Antarctica and stuff.
So he can just basically run it.
It's like a normal walk,
Yeah. Talk about an ultra marathon, Jesus.
But they do make the unfortunate mistake of walking over a glass shopping mall.
How would they have known?
Because it's under the snow.
The ever-evolving ice age. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is where the heroic sacrifice of the supporting character is made.
So not him, but the other paleoclimate scientist. He looks familiar too.
The old grumpy dude? Or the young dude?
No, not the old grumpy dude, the younger dude.
Yeah, the young dude's been in stuff. I meant to look this up, but I didn't, so let's find out. What's he been in? He was in Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, he was too.
That's what I think we're thinking of him in.
Yeah, not just that though. I forgot about that. Oh, he's got his 51 now. Jeez.
We're all getting old, aren't we?
We are.
He was in The Thin Red Line.
I've seen Wildflower.
Silver Linings Playbook, Perfect Storm. We'll have to do that one at some point.
Yes, I haven't seen that one.
I've never seen it. So they've gone for a walk, and Frank heroically sacrifices himself. And they lose all their equipment on that sled, though, or a lot of it. That's disconcerting.
How on earth would they survive?
That's kind of what I was thinking, was like, even with all the Antarctica gear, like, when they're in their tent, they're just in their jumpers. And it's like, it's just a tent,
So I think this is where we would need someone like Nerily to come in and comment, because they do camp in tents on the ice. But is there different properties?
Are they special tents?
I don't know. And can you strip down to just a jumper? Like, how does it work? Is it because you've got so much body heat in that location that it all kind of traps it in? These are all, I had these questions too, but I don't know the answer.
Going back to the library at this point, and Emmy Rossum still hasn't revealed that she's got a very bad cut from the taxi tailgate.
That's right, yes.
But
she went back.
There's a bit that I liked here, one of the few bits that stuck with me in terms of dialogue, which is she's a bit bummed out because the world's ended. And she says, everything I've worked for was preparation for a future that no longer exists.
Oh, hard words.
Yeah.
Hard words. Which, I mean, they're pretty deep, to be honest, especially for a movie like this. That is a bit sad. It's a bit arrogant of her.
No, I don't think so, right? I think that's prescient because, she in this film is about the age we were then, roughly, like early 20s. But kids who've grown up in the subsequent 20 years, for whom the climate crisis is a live issue, who have, a lot of experience of climate grief, who are very engaged in activism, I think that's something of an accurate portrayal of their perception, which is, why am I studying? Why am I starting a career when I'm so concerned about what the future of our world and of our society will look like?
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point. And that actually reminds me again about Tim Winton's book, Juice, because it's basically like, well, no, that world doesn't exist. It's completely changed. And you don't even know what's coming next. Will it change again?
Yep.
There's that, high degree of uncertainty and anxiety just in everyday life. So, yeah, you're right. I see your point there. I agreed with what she said. It just didn't seem to fit this movie, I guess. Or her delivery.
It worked for Jake Gyllenhaal because then they're soon smooching by the in front of the fire. And Lucia, who I was watching this with, our colleague Lucia, was like, "Ew, when was the last time they brushed their teeth?"
I didn't think of that, but she has an excellent point.
Yep. Because they've been living in the library drawing room for about, I don't know, 5 days now or something.
Exactly. No toothbrushes or toothpaste in sight. Don't even know if they've
eating like junk they found in the vending machines.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Disconcerting. Not the most romantic moment.
No.
And also she's about to, go into septic shock. So that's also...
Yeah, and almost die. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe unable to give enthusiastic consent in that situation.
Yeah. Or consent at all. But.
Yeah. So just seek enthusiastic consent when you're in a life or death situation, kids.
Yeah.
So but then, they realize that she's in serious medical danger.
Mm-hmm.
Not from Jake Gyllenhaal's bad kissing, but from sepsis in the leg injury she's got, and they need to get some penicillin.
How long does it take for sepsis to develop?
Septic shock can set in pretty quickly.
Yeah, but is there like a lead up with sepsis? Like, does it?
Yeah, 5 days in the New York Public Library.
Well, they didn't even have that. Like, this was still like day 2 or day 3.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, infected. I don't know. We're exposing all kinds of arguments here. We need a doctor. We need a paleoclimatologist. We need all sorts of things to answer these questions. But let's just take it at face value that she's in real trouble. And
here we go. Sepsis can develop rapidly, potentially progressing to septic shock and death in as little as 12 hours. Okay.
There you go.
Or it can develop gradually over several days. So it can. All right. Okay. I stand corrected.
They've got their stuff, and it's fortunate that there is a Russian freighter outside the window of the New York Public Library that should have some penicillin on board it.
Should.
But as simple as that sounds, there are 2 major problems. One is that the streets of New York are now being roamed by zoo wolves.
Didn't they freeze to death?
No, the zoo wolves are alive and well, and they've got a grudge against the people who've kept them in captivity. So,
and they're just also bloody hungry. Like, that's actually how I took that. They're just bloody hungry because there's no food.
In some respects, you would say the wolves are at the door. And that's not the only problem. Also the super freezing cold eye of the snow cyclone is bearing down on the eastern seaboard of the US at this very moment.
I was almost throwing things at the TV at this point.
What were you throwing?
Well, pillows, because that's always in my reach.
So ridiculous. So ridiculous.
I don't have time for this in my life. This is too ridiculous.
What's the most ridiculous bit of this bit?
Oh, God, where do we begin? So, we've talked about the cargo ship. The wolves just happen to be there and still alive. The storm, right? We've discussed that dynamically, physically, it's impossible. It's cold, it's big, and you have the sudden freeze. Like, temperatures dropping dramatically.
And the way it freezes, like, it's progressively... Things get ice on them, like it's creeping up it like a sort of a virus or something like that.
It's like the wave, the storm surge when that happened, like it progressed. Effectively, the ice is doing the same thing. Like it's almost like it is as the storm is coming over. The eye is right on top. Everything's freezing, like gradually, rapidly, like progressively.
Because the way they depict it is it's something you can run from.
Exactly.
Like the freezing is right behind us. Run.
Yeah. And it wouldn't work like that. I don't know. Yeah,
Also, not the most dexterous wolves. Like they outrun them, they outthink them, they shut doors in their faces. I think the wolves would most definitely have eaten them.
I reckon they wouldn't have survived that. There's no way.
The wolves are too nimble, too smart, too hungry.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way.
But somehow or other, they get past the wolves and they get back inside the library. And like
they did get the medicine as well.
They got the penicillin.
Everything else was in Russian. Penicillin was written in English.
Yep.
Lucky for them.
And like the bit where they're kind of dragging each other into the library room with the ice chasing them is like so funny,
Oh, yeah. It was funny. Yeah, you're right. But it was just so unrealistic. And again, just because I'm apparently a climate scientist, I can't watch it through entertaining lens. Like I'm like, no, that's just like that's impossible.
And actually, maybe we should have said this earlier, but what books in the public library would you burn and which would you save?
Oh, that's wow. What do I burn? So someone doesn't burn the Bible?
No, the guy wants to keep hold of that Gutenberg Bible. That's fair enough. I think it's pretty old.
It is pretty old, but yeah, there's a lot. Anyway, we're not going to go down the religious discussion.
Someone burned some tax coding stuff. I think that's good. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's good. I'm thinking I can't think of an exact book off the top of my head, but a kid's book that I've read to my kids that I absolutely hate. And there's a few of them, but one can't come to mind right now. There's one. Yep. I don't hate it, but I've just read it so much, called Where is the Green Sheep? And I don't know if it's an international book or just one in Australia. It's very popular with really young kids because it talks to them about colour and distance and where is this green sheep? Here it is, fast asleep. And I know it off by heart and I don't need it in my life anymore. So that would be one of the first ones to go on the fire. It's a good book, but I am just so over it.
Probably not the biggest book. It's not going to burn for that long.
Well, it depends because kids' books can come in hardcover. They can come in soft cover. They can become made of cardboard. So, depending on the version of it.
How long do you think a book burns for compared to a piece of wood?
Not very. It's thin, right? It's paper.
And with the binding, with the leather binding, does that burn?
Smell and wouldn't it be I don't know what they do. There's chemicals they put on the leather to make it being able to bind a book. That would all be toxic and smelly.
How long?
They use formaldehyde. Really.
If you're trying to keep one large open fire going, how long would it take to burn all the books in the New York Public Library?
This is a great question, and we need a fire expert to answer that. I do have one here where I work, and he could maybe do some calculations for us, but a whole bunch of paper won't last very long. Isn't that's what you use to light a fire, right?
So it's constantly burning kindling.
Exactly. You'd have to be throwing things on
all the time. Interesting question, isn't it?
It is. It really is. I get the premise and the theory, they've got things to burn. Well, that's lucky, but they'd run out pretty quickly, or it wouldn't be sustainable, right? They wouldn't be able to do it fast enough, especially when it's so bloody cold.
So while the kids are burning books, we cut a few times to some people in the International Space Station who are looking down at all this, and they're surprisingly relaxed, given that the only places in the world that can launch rockets to dock with the space station is Cape Canaveral and Kazakhstan or Central Russia. So it's they're not getting back down.
No, this didn't come to my mind while I was watching the movie, but that's a really good point. They're stuck there and they will die there.
They're just floating up there and it's pretty cold. It's pretty cold down there at the moment.
That's maybe where cannibalism might happen in those situations.
They run out of oxygen before they run out of food.
That's true.
So I think we're getting towards the conclusion of this very realistic and entertaining.
Can we just talk about how big these weather systems are and the fact that they are just sitting in the Northern Hemisphere? So I think the reason why they've just done it for the Northern Hemisphere is it's because it's the shutting down of the overturning circulation, which the main effect would be in the Northern Hemisphere. So I think that might be the link. But it's effectively 3 enormous hurricanes that are sitting across the Northern Hemisphere. And if you look at, they briefly show a map at some point towards the end of the movie, and they're all north of the equator. Nothing has
happened down. Everything is normal here. We're still going to work, recording podcasts, drinking coffee.
Yeah, we'll be fine. And I remember watching this movie going, oh well.
So you were taking it apart from the bit where you're Australia is fine.
Obviously they don't care about us enough to kill us all.
To even consider what. Yeah. So what would if the Northern Hemisphere was plunged into a ice age extent superstorm system? What would happen to the Southern Hemisphere?
I don't know. I actually don't know. I think we asked narrowly a similar question, if this overturning circulation shut down, what would happen? And we don't have a lot of research as to what would happen in the Southern Hemisphere. There would be effects. We have less land, so there's more ocean. So I talked about the heat capacity earlier. Maybe the effects wouldn't be as bad here, but if you have an ice age, it does affect the whole planet, not just
that's what I was thinking.
There was another map that they showed, maybe at the beginning or closer to the beginning, when he was proving his model, his reconstruction model, where he forecast how much ice would form. And there was a little bit in far South Australia, over Melbourne and maybe far southwestern Australia.
The Kiwis are in trouble.
Pardon?
The Kiwis are in trouble.
The Kiwis are in trouble. And I think they didn't show that, though, I don't think. But anyway, I remember looking at it again while we were doing this viewing and thinking, they've just taken a latitude band and said anything north or south in the appropriate hemispheres will freeze. So I reckon that was roughly 35 to 40 degrees. So anything north of that would be covered in ice. Anything south of that was land, would be covered in ice. And that's just really basic and stupid.
We talked about, they run away from the ice. Jack and his mate, his surviving mate, are hiding in that cafe as the super center of the storm passes. And then from that point onwards, everything's fine, right? They climb out of the cafe. It's just, what it looks like now is like a cold, crisp, clear winter's day. And they get back in there, on their sleds.
Yep.
And they go for a walk, and there's like a giant frozen ship sticking out of the ice next to the Statue of Liberty.
Yep.
They walk in, they burst in. Oh, who's that? It's my dad. Everything's fine.
Yep. We're all good now.
Thanks for coming.
Climate scientist saves the day.
Indeed. That's the moment you've been waiting for.
Yes.
So one thing I was thinking was, would not the Statue of Liberty have been like ripped from its moorings by that storm surge? Do you think the water would have washed over it, or would have just taken it with it?
I don't know. So it's on a man. Is it on a man-made island? I've not been to the statue.
It's on a. Well, that's a very good question. I have been past it. Is it on a man-made island or a real island? But it's on like a plinth. It's a statue fixed to a plinth. So I'm pretty sure it's coming off.
Well, oftentimes with storm surge, it's an inundation, right? So it goes through buildings and things because it's much more casual and progressive, not like woof. And even sometimes with tsunamis, depending on how tight, like how high the tsunami itself is, how far away from the coast you are, how high the building is, and what it's structurally comprised of, doesn't always knock everything down in its path. So it could have just washed over it in reality. I don't know. But I also don't know, like, this is now getting into engineering. How is the Statue of Liberty set up? But if it was like this great big wall of water washing over it, pushing it, maybe it would have been ripped through its moorings. I get why you thought that, why that was a sticking point.
And every single question we've asked where we've said, we need someone who knows this, we need someone who knows that. I feel like in Chernobyl they had someone,
Yeah.
How does this work? How does this work? What would they have worn? What devices do they use? What do the phones look like,
Yes.
Like they went to an enormous effort to make it realistic.
Yes.
Whereas this, it's like, I guess,
So they did have someone consult on the climate specifics of this, but it was just one scientist.
Do you know them?
I know of them. So they're American. I don't know what they're doing now. And they were adjunct to the University of New South Wales for a while there.
Oh, yeah.
The Climate Change Research Centre. And I watched the credits because I knew that. And I had a vague recollection of that. And I thought, surely there was multiple. But in the credits, it was only his name that popped up.
Yeah, that's pretty light. That's pretty light on, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. For a disaster blockbuster climate stuff movie, surely be consulting with more people. Maybe they did, but I only saw his name.
I mean, look, it's a bit of an afterthought. Future follow-up. Maybe we could talk to someone like him.
Maybe we could make our
Is it him or her?
Maybe this is our new project, not to create any extra work for ourselves, because that's all we need. We can make our own movie. We can produce a movie.
Well, I was more thinking it would be interesting to talk to this person about what it was like to consult on this film, how seriously they took it, whether, like, how much input they actually had and what got knocked back. And I'm quite curious about that.
Actually, I would agree. I'm genuinely curious about it too. And it'd be interesting, like, I wouldn't turn down at all being consulted for a movie like this. I find it a very interesting exercise. I would be a bit upset and turned off if they took, like, if I said, no, categorically you cannot do that, that is just so incorrect, and they still went ahead and did it anyway, I'd be a bit annoyed. But I'd find the process quite interesting and in some parts likely really rewarding as well. Yeah.
And there's back to the film, there's rewards for everyone. So the vice president has been rewarded with the presidency.
That's right. We skipped over this bit. The actual president just died.
Just didn't make it. We don't see that. He just didn't make it.
Gone. And we saw how the Queen died, well, how her entourage died, but we didn't see him die.
And he says he's learned some humility. He says we were wrong. I was wrong.
Yeah. I was wrong. Sorry, my bad. Whoopsie daisy. Whoops. Let's just all recover and move forward.
But the dog made it, and the Gutenberg Bible made it, and hundreds of rich people at the top of their penthouses and skyscrapers made it. So
we'll be fine.
It's not so bad after all, really. It's kind of
no.
The tone of the end of the film is, well, that was a bad storm, but it seems like everything's okay now.
And it ended really abruptly to me. I'm like, is that it? Like, not that it had to be tied up in a neat bow, But like the storms ended, everything's equaled out. We're in this ice age. Well, yeah, man survived this before. We'll be fine.
And the guys in the space station are like, have you ever seen the air so clear?
I feel like they ran out of money at that point. They're like, okay, we need to end this.
Got to wrap this thing up. Much like we do.
We do. We have gone on many excursions from the movie.
Zach's hardest task yet to wrangle this all together.
Yeah, it's really very rude. But it has been fun today. I've actually really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there's science and me apparently not knowing most of it, but it's been fun. This is a nice break, I think. Or I guess a nice
just shaking
variety.
It up a bit, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I want to do more of these, I've decided.
So we've talked about what it gets right, what it gets wrong. Yeah. I think we know why people still talk about it, people of our age.
Yes. Yeah. It was quite defining for our generation.
Yeah, big film. It's a reference point for climate change on the big screen.
Yes, exactly.
And I think it got people talking about that.
Yeah, so I guess in some ways it has been effective. It did, and as I said, like when I went to see it, I'm like, oh hey, I find this really interesting. I'm studying something that is of interest. Like people, are entertained by this, are interested by this. Things did change in that time, but yeah, it did help bring climate change into, I don't know, everyday conversations, I guess.
Could we go so far as to think of it as climate science communication? Is this science communication? Is it a good example of science communication? Like engaging a really wide audience in the themes at play, And
even if it's inaccurate, it gets people talking and thinking. And there's many examples of this now, but yeah, this is one of the first.
But so to some extent, is the day after tomorrow, it conveys the spirit of, the last 50 years of climate science is what we're doing is going to cause us a big problem.
Yeah, yes. So I think the bottom line is we're fucking up the climate.
We're fucking up the climate and it's going to bite us in the arse. And that's what this film shows you.
The way it's biting us in the arse.
Yeah, for the purpose of narrative and big budget Hollywood cinema for a story that people can watch over 2 hours and then walk away from, it has to be a bit silly and a bit inaccurate.
Of course. Yeah.
But that's it's the alarm and the threat of major changes to our weather systems and our climate norms and the consequences that will cause in a microcosm or in a an exaggerated narrative vehicle.
Yeah, agree. Right.
And
so
I think it's good. I like that.
It's good. I do wonder though if it kind of planted some seeds for climate denialism and the climate wars and the climate hiatus that I've mentioned before. Like, did it start people, with perhaps subconsciously, but start that seed of doubt? Like, well, maybe the planet won't warm, or maybe this will happen. I don't know. I might be.
Or maybe it scared some people enough that they decided that they would be like they wouldn't engage emotionally with the threat and they would more choose to lean into skepticism and doubt and
because it was an easier
maybe I don't know, it's an interesting one.
But climate fiction, I think that's the term I was looking for. Like it is this was I reckon it was one of the first examples, and they do help with climate communication. Even however inaccurate they might be, it gets people talking.
And thinking. Yep. And no actual paleoclimatologists were harmed in the making of the movie.
No
to our knowledge.
No books.
No books were burned. No hot dogs were stolen.
No.
That's it for this special movie episode of Totally Cooked.
In our next movie special, you better shut the barn door tight because we got cows.
That's right. It's the 1996 classic Twister. Until then, join us for the next regular episode of Totally Cooked.
And we'll tackle the climate crisis together.
Whoa.